hopefully you can all see the first slide.
Yes.
Great, great. So I'll just take you through the slides. I'm afraid I can't see the chat or anything, so please do stop me if there's any issues with my connection or hearing what I'm saying or anything like that. But then, yeah, as mentioned before, we'll have a time for questions at the end. So, as I briefly mentioned before, I am James Butler. I am a resilience officer in the Resilience Partnership team. And our team has basically been set up about 12 years ago now to support with emergency planning across Leicester, Leicestershire, and Rutland. So we work with local authorities to prepare, plan, respond, and recover from any of the kind of incidents that might take us outside of our normal everyday business. And also within our remit, we kind of support with some of the things that I'll be talking about today in terms of household resilience, community resilience, business continuity planning. So we'll get into all of that. And we also work very closely with the local resilience forum, and the local resilience forum is just a kind of group of all the different responders that work across the area of Leicester, Leicestershire, and Rutland. So you've got your classic blue lights emergency services, you've got local authorities, you've got the Environment Agency, and then other supporting agencies like your utilities and voluntary sector, and anyone who might be involved in responding to incidents across our area will be linked in through that group. So we work closely with everyone. In terms of risks, there's been a range of kind of incidents that we've experienced across our area over the last kind of few years, and we've compiled a list of the top 8 risks for Leicestershire, and that's based on the National Risk Register, but kind of localizing that and looking at specifically to our area what we think are those top risks. So you might want to, yeah, pop some in the chat if you've got any ideas as to what they might be. I'll cover them on the next slide so you can see how many you get right. But in terms of risks, it's really important that we understand what our risks are. So I've linked our website down at the bottom there. That's my team's website, and you can find information on there and also links to other places such as the National Risk Register, where you can really understand what might be some of our key risks and then what might we want to do to prepare for that, especially when we're thinking about going into the winter months, flooding being one of our key risks, which I'm sure everyone is kind of familiar with, Leicestershire being, an area of flooding, and I won't get too much into the details of that because I know we've got Will, who's a lot more knowledgeable on flooding than me, so he'll be taking us through a bit more focus on that risks in the next set of slides. But during instance, unfortunately, there is a limit to the capacity of emergency responding agencies. So sometimes if priorities need to go to a certain area, which is dealing with certain vulnerable groups or really high level of risk, you may be facing kind of certain risks within your household, within your business, within your community that you need to kind of hopefully be prepared for and be able to cope with just until we can get those support services to you. So we'll be kind of talking through in the rest of the slides what that might look like. So hopefully you've been thinking about local risks. So the 8 top risks that we've identified for our area is going to be shown in the slides here, and that is disease outbreak, cyber attacks, loss of telecommunications, power outage, terrorism, major transport incidents, flooding, and extreme weather. So we've got specific plans at the multi-agency level to deal with those risks. But yeah, we encourage, you as individuals, community members, business employees or owners to kind of understand what might be our risks and try to make effective plans for those too. So in terms of planning, uh, again, a link at the bottom of this slide here, and we'll make sure that all of these links are shared after this. Because I realize it's a long link and I don't want you to have to all be kind of trying to write that down. But yeah, making a plan is really important. I've highlighted on this slide a part of the household emergency plan template, which the government's put out. And a household emergency plan helps basically to keep all the important information that you might need in one place. So that could involve writing down the important phone numbers on a piece of paper somewhere, which would be easy to find in scenarios such as a power cut. So not somewhere kind of too out of the way in a dark place. It can include important contact details. So good one to include is who to call if there is a power cut. And in England, that number is 105. And any other kind of emergency contacts that might be useful to you when you kind of experiencing anything out of the ordinary. Other important information that is included in the template that you might want to consider would be areas like insurance policy details, kind of key contact numbers for kind of key contacts that you might want to get in touch with. So as I say, there's a template linked here on our website, and then also additionally there are community response plans which I'll touch on briefly in a later slide, and also business continuity plans if you're looking at this from a more of a business perspective. So there is a template and toolkit around that to support you with your planning. You may also want to consider what items might be helpful to have in these kind of scenarios. And I realize, a lot of these kind of items may be for fairly severe instance, and I'm not wanting to alarm anyone. I don't know anything that you don't know. We're not expecting anything to happen. But there could be a range of instances, such as power outages or flooding, or we've faced different scenarios where there's been issues with getting supplies from shops, or you may need to stay in your home for a prolonged period of time. So it's really helpful to consider what items you might want in those scenarios so that you don't have to panic. You've got that to fall back on and rely on in those times, and there's not kind of that increased pressure during those difficult times. We've got a list of some of the key things that you might want to include on our website again, so you can have a look through that. But ultimately, it's very much down to you and what your needs might be. It's also can be helpful to have what is often sometimes called a grab bag, and that's a small kind of bag that may have a reduced version of this, which you can keep by the door. So if there's an event where you have to leave quickly, instead of staying in your home and having these items with you accessible in your home to kind of keep you going by yourself, it may be that you have to leave your home swiftly. So we would encourage people to consider packing a few items to be able to grab and take with them in those kind of scenarios. Also, with winter approaching and road conditions becoming more dangerous and different risks coming up within those scenarios, it can also be good practice to keep some emergency supplies in your vehicles. So that could be items such as high-vis, car recovery items. It could be blankets, water, first aid kits, just to make sure that if you had an issue either with your car or you were stuck in your car for a prolonged period of time, that you wouldn't be running out of some of those essentials, and you'd be able to not escalate into more of an emergency scenario than needs be. So that's a bit of a focus on more of the household side of things. We do also support with community planning. So the best way to support your community is to get to know your community and be aware of what risks your community faces. So understanding, is there a flood risk? What instance might we have faced in the community before? And then you can work together to create a community response plan, which is something that my team can support on and we really encourage. We generally work on those plans through parish councils. So if you are interested in that, it's worth reaching out to my team using the email address at the bottom of this slide, or to get in contact with your parish council directly to understand if your community already has one of these plans in place, and if it does, how you can support on that. Or if not, it might be that you are able to kind of work with the parish council or whoever it may be within your community to start looking at, if something happens, do we have all the information that we might need to respond and help each other out in that kind of scenario. So some of a similar kind of information that you might find in the household plan, but kind of expanding that out towards your wider community and understanding, are there resources within your community? Maybe there's pubs or village hall or church hall that could be opened up if there was some sort of incident that meant people had to leave their homes for a period of time, so that they've got somewhere warm and safe to go to during those times. Understanding, are there any key vulnerabilities that we might need to be aware of, and just understanding what skills you might have within your community and how they might be able to support during those times. We also have flood wardens, and this is a scheme which allows us to work with representatives from communities to try to really support one another during those times of, both before flooding, during flooding, and after flooding, with various tasks to help your communities prepare and protect themselves from flooding as best possible. So if you'd like to find out a bit more about community response plans or becoming a volunteer flood warden, we are very welcoming of anyone who's got the energy and focus to support their communities in that way, and we'd love to hear from you. So please do reach out. Have a look on our website for more information on that, and get in touch with us either through the contacts on our website or through the email address linked to the bottom of the slide. So just to finish off before I hand over to Will, we've got our team's website there at the top. So that's LLR Resilience Forum. And then the Gov Prepared campaign is another great website. So that's a national government website to be able to provide additional advice, and we also signpost from our website to there for relevant information on some of the different things that we've talked about today. And then we've also recently set up a Facebook page. So if you want to keep up to date with what's happening in terms of emergency planning across the area, then you're very welcome to sign up to there. And we also kind of share information that we think communities might find helpful through that forum. So those are slides. As I say, I will make sure that all of that information and links are shared with you afterwards, and look forward to hearing from anyone who is interested in finding out more.